you, Bad Mary, for that too sweet playing. Welcome back, all you four-color funny book aficionados. This is US Comics Cast, HQ for all things comic book related. I am John Rivera, human being and also CEO and co-founder of US Comics, and I am joined as always by the COO and co-host and suspected cyborg Charle Beep Bop Boop Rivera. What's up, Charlie?
I henceforth declare I am affiliated exclusively with Robos, Cybos, and all. Humanity has done nothing for me, and I shall do nothing for humanity. Happy Comic Book Day, my big brother.
Yeah, happy Comic Book Day to you and to all the multitudes watching and listening. If you dig this show, or if you're just into that comic book sweetness, feel free to drop a like, a follow, a comment, subscribe. We accept all forms of tribute. Charlie, especially with his robot, icy heart, just the mechanics and whirligig spinning away, he certainly will accept a human sacrifice or two. But Charlie,
Yeah?
what's cooking? Good looking.
I gotta tell you, man, every week I feel like I can't help but say the boring ass thing of like, aren't we in the fucking golden era of TV right now? Look at all this entertainment we have coming our way. So much so, John, I say it every single week.
Nope, never said it.
Much like my favorite opening segment that's done all the time, and that's What Am I Watching? It's a segment. We've done it for every single episode, I promise. Don't check, just assume. Click like and move on. John, we never talked about Love, Death, Robots 3. Which, again, I am now referring to all my shit, not a season. I'm just going to act like it's a Rocky movie and add the number to the end.
And you know what's funny is I don't think that they're referring to it as seasons either. So clearly, all you icy, chili, needs oil. So you're like Tin Men
Oil!
that Charlie is clearly a part of. I don't think that they're referring to themselves as seasons either. So
well, that's because it's fucking not cool to be like,
right
we're a
point.
season. Nah, baby. We're not even a series. We're just a name and a number. John, I don't understand.
011011001.
I do not understand, and I cannot fathom how something as good as Love, Death, and Robots pops up and isn't mentioned. Last week when we were talking about Stranger Things, I said I had no hype for Stranger Things. I turned it on, hot fire, and the internet was like, fuck yeah, we're here, baby. Stranger Things 4.
Tiny little man in your pee-pee hole. You're just there.
Exactly. Now, I got to tell you, little man dying in a cocaine bag notwithstanding, I feel like no one talked about Love, Death, and Robots, even after it was out. And it is it better than ever? First of all, have you checked out the entirety of Love, Death, Robots 3? Is this the first sequel we had? We had a sequel to one of the installments?
What are you referring to, the 3 robots?
Yes. My best friends. Very much those 3 robots are better friends to me than all my friends.
I think that we have had, I think this is the 3rd installment of we're the 3
been in every
best
series
friends that anyone's ever had. Yeah, I think 3 robots, done by Blow Studio, no,
you're a monitor down, and you pulled up that research quick.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
I am 2 monitors down. Well, yeah, I mean,
technically you're like 3
new
and a half
monitor, but never had it before. Right now it's just basically a mirror. So if I check my hair relentlessly, that's the reason why.
I already noticed there was already a coif adjustment, which I appreciate because it is one hell of a head of hair.
Some lip gloss, checking the nails, pushing back a cuticle or two.
Do you think it's because it's animated? What's going on that this isn't getting, seemingly it's not getting its flowers? Yeah.
If
dove right in. I'm like, I don't even want to know if you like it. Why aren't people appreciating it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've pretty much been on record, at least with you personally, that I don't like it. I love it. Anthology series like this, For those of you scoring at home, by anthology series, I mean that while all the episodes are in the same vein, they are neither in even the same animation style, nor are they necessarily connected. Think Black Mirror, also appearing on Netflix. No, Charlie. Honestly, what I think the reason is because this is not established IP. So when you have kind of like a relatively, it's like going down the cereal aisle and like you spot a generic looking box and you've never heard of it, but somebody says just try these, bro. Just open your mouth crack, try them, and then you're thinking this is one of the best cereals, in your case, dry ass cut your mouth to ribbons cereal that I've ever had. But there's no animated goofy animal on the front. It's not attached to a movie or a cartoon series as all of your cereals are. But it's delicious, and you're just like nom 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 nom, spoon after spoon, episode after episode. There you go. Charlie paid no less than 500% markup because of the no ghost symbol, and that guy has been dead for probably 200 years. That guy. No royalties for his family. That's way worse than even the comic book creator situation.
Yes.
Like, yo, you using a picture of my dead great 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 grandpa Fester? That's rude. But yeah, no. To long answer your question, I think it's because it's not attached to any existing IP that they can say, I like this better, or this is worse, or in these little three buddies of yours. They're as close to we have as any kind of continuity, season to season to season, or issue to issue, or whatever the case.
Yeah, moment to moment. That's how I couldn't love this anymore. Obviously, I get heavy Animatrix vibes because Animatrix for the longest time is probably my favorite anthology presented in a single package until Love Death Robots kind of showed up. So I'm gonna keep on beating this.
Well, just real quick, why do you think that it's not getting the love that we both agree it deserves?
I genuinely think some things are so good, they're almost frustrating for a normal person. I feel like a normie who's still clinging on desperate to this idea that maybe they're not a dweeb, because I have a theory we're all fucking dweebs about something, but these people almost don't want to admit
closeted Love Death Robot fans.
I feel like
no,
to
that's
them,
so stupid, but then they'll walk through a crack in the closet door.
I feel like to them it would be like, I'm not gonna watch a fucking cartoon. I truly do think that some people
except on Sunday when Fox is on for like 9 hours.
I just feel like some people feel this weird compulsion, because that's a very good point. It's like people still proudly watch Family Guy. That's arguably been unwatchable for a decade.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not funny anymore.
Yeah,
that's a given.
So I think it's just a matter of people being so afraid of the perception, being like, I'm a dweeb. Whereas Star Wars is kind of like, if you watch Star Wars, you can be like a sexy dweeb. If you're into pro wrestling,
Star Wars is almost mandatory. Skip right over pro wrestling. That's things. I think it's pushing the envelope a little too far, buddy.
I was gonna bury it with like, then you smell bad, but I couldn't get it quick enough. So that was my bad that I threw that ball down the gutter. Yeah. But no, it's this weird thing where people are just like, nah, I can't like that kid shit. When Love Death Robots couldn't be less kid shit if there was, hardcore sex in it.
Anybody,
and sometimes there is,
and there has been for sure. But anybody who makes a statement like that has just outed themselves, no pun intended, as just never having seen it before. So the other thing is also, and I don't know if you experienced this, when you know of somebody, close to a friend, a coworker, family member, whomever, and you feel that you know them well enough to say, that person would love this. Clearly, you're not going to recommend something that you don't like. But if somebody has some identifying marker, right, in their genetic matrix that says this person will enjoy the shit out of this show, and then you say to them, taste this, it's delicious, and they're like, no, that's yucky. It gets so frustrating Did you see Cousin Paul's comment from YouTube?
Cousin Paul said, John and Charlie watch animated robot shows so we don't have to. Not everything can be about a rock man, his invisible friend, stretchy guy, and Fireboy.
Paul,
God
if we
damn it.
told you that there was a robot that's made entirely out of gravel, you'd be right freaking there. You're like, oh, can he have an awesome catchphrase and a cigar? Yeah, no, it's really interesting to me, and also for the fact that, look, if I say, hey Charlie, watch this show or that show, and even if you start off the debate with, oh well, what's it about, and I say whatever, I'll use this as an example. So uh, 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 was it Raised by Wolves or some kind of wolfy title?
The sci-fi HBO show?
It was a sci-fi HBO show. Dope. It starred Lothar, starred like a pretty sexy looking robot chick and her black husband, and they're all their adopted kids. It was basically like sci-fi Lost Planet Brady Bunch. And it was pretty dope. It was interesting. It was unique. It had multiple storylines. It wasn't a singular type thing that like a little kid would follow. And it couldn't get past that second season. They're like, nope, you're done now. HBO dropped that show faster, not quite as fast as they dropped Lovecraft Country, but certainly, so they basically they pulled a Netflix. They're like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, not enough people like it. Get rid of it. It's shocking, but and also like Gargoyles. But yeah, no, it was shocking to me. But if I explained that show to you, and you said, you know what? No, I don't like robots adopting children. That goes against my morality base, and I couldn't possibly convince you to watch that show. Whereas in this case, I'm like, oh, you don't like little wise-cracking robots making jokes about the demise of the human population on Earth? Hang out about 11 minutes. There's a new episode coming, and that could be about any damn thing. So with that type of a variable option on the table, I'm shocked that most people don't say, okay, I'll try it.
I almost feel like Netflix, you know how sometimes on a Netflix series and certainly on the other streaming services, they'll force feed you like a trailer? I almost want them to just start putting full episodes.
They date rape you a trailer. It is uncomfortable.
But could you imagine for Stranger Things, you turn it on, it's those little fucking robots for 11 minutes? Just enjoying our demise. Honestly, if you told me the three robots from Love, Death, and Robots was a film clip from 70 years from now, I'd be like, yeah, that adds up. Oh, they got Musk, but good this season. John, do you have a favorite episode from the new season?
I mean, you list-making son of a bitch. Yeah, I mean, by default, you probably have to have a favorite. Let me give it a quick think.
See, for me, the moment I saw Bad Traveling, which is, again, we'll keep it as spoiler-free as possible. It's literally like guys on a boat, like a old school pirate
I think
boat.
at this point, I mean, people have had their fair try. So if they haven't seen it by now, fuck them.
Fair enough.
Spoil away.
So there's like an old school, like Captain Jack Sparrow type boat, and there is a fucking alien creature in the lower deck, and it's like, hey, you ever see Suddenly Seymour, that musical? Feed me, bitch. And the guy does.
But also as well as like the reason why you never go to like Red Lobster on a first date. Because behind the wrong door is just nightmare fuel for days. That episode you could almost smell. And this is an animated series, so I don't know if we mentioned this on the prior season's explanation, but every episode, while being galactically different from the one before it, story-wise, they're also animated in completely different styles. So sometimes you'll hear that about comic books. You're like, well, I want to read that. I don't like that art style. You can't even say that in this animated anthology series because the styles artistically are different episode to episode also. So just even more evidence. Yeah, go ahead. But yeah, that's a great episode. You could, again, you could smell that episode. The
My
animation was so
favorite though,
rich.
it was the very first time, and again, I don't think there's an episode of Love Death Robots that I haven't enjoyed.
Oh,
Obviously, it's to
there definitely have been that I was like,
oh yeah, I don't
should've
have
give
any
this a
that like.
miss.
I think it's just because it's so short that
Well,
like
that's
by
the
the
worst.
time
What's
I've
the
come
worst
to
thing
the
you can say is
conclusion,
like, oh, that 17 minutes I'm like, well, what were you gonna do with those 17 minutes? Give me a break.
I think that's why at the end of the day, there's episodes I like probably won't return to. But the
Hmm.
only episode I ever watched, and I was like, "Oh, you dicks! That should have been feature length." It's from the season, and it's probably the one with the least meat on the bones. But there's an episode called "Kill Team Kill," and
Uh-huh.
it's basically Predator. And obviously I saw this season before the new Predator trailer, which I'm
Yeah.
super hyped about. But Kill Team Kill, they're fighting like a robot bear, and like
Oh,
the twist
See,
is
you-
like the bear was
you-
designed for good, but he
you
ain't doing
thought-
good.
you thought of Predator for that? I immediately went to the Weapon X program.
Oh, also that, yeah.
Like if Wolverine had been slightly less feral than what we actually got, that's he would have been that friggin' bear. And also like the characters of the soldiers were so very specifically designed. They tend to stay away from like very obviously known voice actors for all these projects, which I personally I think serves them well because you just stay in the zone of the story that they're telling. But let me just double check.
Yeah.
So I knew the episode that I wanted to reference as the favorite, but yeah. So it's the episode is called Mason's Rats.
Yes.
So again, the quick synopsis: the farmer, he realizes, oh shit, I've got rats in the barn. He gives a quick look. He finds out these aren't like your regular everyday.
This shit's the John Rivera story.
Dude, he realizes that the rats have kind of like evolved, and they weren't just like using their claws and teeth, like they were using primitive weapons and stuff like that. So again, this is sci-fi, so it's presumptively in the future. He calls a pest extermination company, and first of all, the company's like, look, they're evolving because their evolution is because of the pressure that humans are exerting on them. So these aren't just like empty 15-20 minute entertainments. Like just like I subscribe every story, if it's worth telling, even if it's a fictional story, it's worth telling for a reason. Like, well, okay, you're gonna tell me about these rats that evolve and fight back against a fucking like a robot executioner that looks more like a fucking Roomba. Why
Death
is that?
Roomba 2020.
Fuck yeah, and you know that's just gonna be on Amazon in like 2 weeks. But yeah, so like if you're gonna tell a story, like what's your point? Like we were just talking about this on an unrelated story that we'll topic that we'll get to at a later date. But like what are you trying to convey? So the story isn't really about rat evolution and fighting, because if you wanted that, you could just rock and roll with Pickle Rick and fucking do battle in the sewers. But the point that they were trying to make is like, well, yeah, they're responding to us. So you hate that, but guess what, buddy? You fucking did it, and now you have to pay top dollar for, for the Arnold version of the Roomba to come and clean up. And that those animations, that was some gory, very like visceral type stuff.
I don't want to spoil this,
As
but there's
an
a
animal
third.
lover, has a great ending.
There's a third act turn that I didn't see coming, and when it came, I just high-fived my damn self. Like I literally
did you.
watched the entirety of Love, Death, Robots with my dog, and the two of us were just like, "Fuck
Both
yeah!"
pointing. You guys are doing dual Leos. You're like, oh, look at that.
Exactly right. Overall, I think this season absolutely stands shoulder to shoulder with the first series and the second series. I like listing shit. It's one of those things I keep expecting there to be more misses than hits, and they are fucking as consistent as the Mets are right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I would say that like with any kind of consistency, it's that they're far more hits than misses. But it's one of those things also when you have a variation so great on an episode to episode basis, even if you're like, well, this is a short one, I don't like that. So like for me, one of those, sometimes you're watching something and you're way into it, but on the same token, you could think, Charlie's not gonna like this one. So or whomever, like insert awesome brother, potential cyborg, into the conversation there. But sometimes you can think, I love this, but this is clearly just for me. So I'm gonna sit back and I'll enjoy it. The way I would eating a Hershey bar in front of said dog. You're like, look, you just can't have this shit.
I'm sorry for you.
For me, one of those type episodes, and honestly, I don't know if you would have liked it or not, but Night of the Mini Dead.
Oh, I love that.
You did like it? See, I wouldn't have put money on whether you liked it or didn't like it, because first and first, mostly, it was shot from an even further back angle than an RPG, like an old school RPG game, like the original, the original Grand Theft Auto was.
Yes.
Where you're like up above it and a little bit on an angle,
tiny.
and the cars like it's almost like you're watching over the shoulder of a kid playing Matchbox cars. So this was taken back like even another layer in the ozone, and you're watching in essence like a Night of the Living Dead scenario play out, but tiny, and from way above, almost like you're flying over in a spy plane in 1980 something. But I loved that episode, even like the tiny little voices and everything like that. I just loved it. It looked almost like a video game, and the way that it played out was very entertaining. It was very original. I mean, were there any episodes that stuck out for you that you like? Nope. Thumbs down.
I think it was a really strong. See, there was some like where half the episode maybe didn't have me on the first viewing.
Like the first 5 minutes of this was a pass, but the second 5 minutes was straight fire.
Well, it is like Jabaro, I think, is the best looking episode.
Jabaro is,
and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
No, I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's not that many options. So, Jabaro is a work of art.
Yes.
Like any one frame of that short could be framed and hung up on a wall because it is straight gorgeous. So never mind the ethnic of it all. So just real quick, there's a group of knights and they're on horseback and they're riding through a forest. There's really no more specifics given than that. And they stop by a lake and one of the knights kind of like is acting a little bit different than everything else. And you're thinking, all right, I'm going to have to pay attention to this goateed motherfucker. But the reason being is his hearing is impaired.
He can't
hear
shit.
So right away, exactly, beep, right away, you know that there's going to be something. This is going to differentiate. So everyone else is going to have a different day than he did when he's writing in his diary. And he takes some coins from the lake, and he's all of a sudden, that's all it took. And I had my mind shot to Angelina Jolie in Grendel and Beowulf, the animated Beowulf, if you remember it. So imagine that, but with 2022 now animation rather than like 1994 animation, which is what that other one looked like. Even though Angelina Jolie's covered in gold was still pretty okay with me. But so the rest of the knights get ripped up one side or the other because look, man, her coins were. She's a siren, for lack of a better term.
These are my coins.
She is gorgeous, but she's clearly not the one you take home to mama. And it visually, they're not so much nice as, if I'm not mistaken, they're like conquistadors.
I thought so, yeah.
Just like the visual aspect of it was just fucking beautiful. And look, someone says, "Oh, it's a siren story." You're like, "Okay, I got it." Beautiful chicks, not gonna turn out very well for the dudes involved, and it did not. And it was like one of those things where you sit back and you cross your arms, have a little drink. You're like, mm-hmm. It's like you're watching the boat racing towards the iceberg. And you're like, I know how this is gonna end, but I still want to see it play out. It was just a beautiful, beautiful short.
What's funny is I think what affected me was how beautiful it was. So I wasn't following along. I was too stuck with how remarkable it looked that its content was like, I don't know what the fuck I just watched. I just saw some beautiful shit.
You're like, I don't even know what's happening, but I like it.
On my second viewing, it's probably the one episode I like the least, whilst thinking the art's probably my favorite of the season. Just because I think I was Jabaro.
Oh, Jabaro.
Probably is the best looking of the season, and the story I was least engaged with. But that's because the rest of the episodes are so specifically up my alley. I was in such a cheeky mood from some of the episodes. When this shit hit me like an art film, I was just like, I don't know if I also want to go to the museum
as well
today.
as because you were not wearing pants. So you kind of had no choice but to be cheeky about it.
I have to be honest, man. I hate being the fucking one to say it as we wrap up the segment. Love, Death, Robots, I almost wish wasn't dropped in seasons. I wish it was like every
that's
Friday.
Shocking to me.
Every Friday, I want to get a new one that I'll watch 3 times in a row, forever. But I want
only
like 1,000
they're
episodes.
so short. I would only sign off on that request if you submitted it to upper management, like myself. If you said, all right, a dual installment. I'm an unlicensed doula.
I would
you
just
said
need
every
them,
Friday, okay, here are 2 episodes.
I would almost need them to be
Maybe.
in the same vein. I
do you
think
mean?
part of the jumping from one style to the other is really, really fun, but jumping from one extreme, this one's making me giggle, this one's making me think, a little whiplashy for me. But I'm literally saying my cup is running over, and if there was anything I could do, it's like to get more episodes, I would have them fucking spread out more. Just because I literally watched this through twice, and then we didn't even talk about it on the fucking show.
I'm now really more and more of a proponent of give it all to me, simply because
you're a hoe.
If you ruin it, well, come on. If you ruin it, there's no one to blame but yourself, as opposed to somebody like lording over you, like, no, this is how you're gonna watch it because I damn say so. And if anybody sits here and says that's their preferred, you know where we're going, their preferred method of viewership, they are a damn liar. Much like apparently Vince McMahon is, because he's being sued up one side and down the other, but also as well as George Toy Boy Lucas. You lying son of a bitch. Han shot first. Salute. Woof. Woo!
It burns so good.
Yeah, that one,
that one hit the spot. I just want to remind everybody we are live on YouTube, on Twitch, and on Facebook. So make sure you drop a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. We want to know what you thought about Love, Death, Robots 3. But tell us all the things.
cheers from up the block.
Yeah, exactly. Just dropping it in. John!
No.
The people heard enough of me babbling. What do you want to talk about?
I mean, that has literally never even begun to stop you in the past, so why would it be any different now? I'm not entirely sure.
Because of the schedule, whatever.
So, but you're right. I mean, and I think a big part of the reason, just to take it back a second.
Big part of the reason I'm right? Holy shit. Hell yeah.
Oof, I don't like.
No, you said it.
Put it in those terms.
No, you said it. It's clipped.
I mean, technically speaking,
we
you said it.
Touche. You get to adjust your hair one more time this episode, or else I'm
Listen.
driving to Jersey.
Nobody told you to put these fucking beautiful screens in front of me right now. But no, I think a big part of the reason why we are so delayed. God bless you, pup. We're so delayed in speaking about this great third season of Love, Death, Robots is because there has been so much new good popping up that is more kind of like universally spoken about and watched and opinionated, whatever.
I'll take it.
But also just in terms of like news, and a lot of times the nerdy news, for lack of a better term, pretty sure I just coined that one hashtag, it's just been nonstop. And along with that, so you'll get like straight up news, but then people will start hypothesizing and they'll start kind of like daydreaming scenarios into reality. And a real true nerdy geek aficionado can't leave a hypothetical situation alone. You absolutely, by law, are obligated to chime in and say why. Well, this is why you're wrong. Actually, this is the reason why.
Well, secret origin of the show is hypothetical, made up shit. Is like what led us here. It's what led US Comics to existing. Was like you can only fix Batman so many times in a row before you're like, no, my character now.
Well, that's the thing too. When you make these big fixes, you're like, you know what? If we just call this person something else, we have our own thing that is from scratch.
Yeah.
But no, specifically to what I'm referring to is the news when it rolls out. So we have now gotten in the Marvel extended universe, we have gotten the Elaine version of what Sam Jackson was doing in the very, very beginnings of Phase 1 of the Marvel flicks. And it's actually so long ago that not until you're sitting down a relative newbie that you're even reminded of it. Because, like, when's the last time that you went back and you watched the Ed Norton Hulk? When's the last time that you went back and you watched Iron Man 1? In my case, about 15 minutes ago, so I knew what I was talking about. But, no, but sincerely, like, those early, like, gathering scenes are almost forgotten once you're into the 14th iteration of Thanos conceptually and all the going-ons of the extended universe. And now we've got Thor being like a fifth installment. It's just absolutely bonkers. But back in the day, it was a slow burn. And on the other side of that coin, you have a similar scenario happening with Elaine from Seinfeld. She's going around and she's collecting up.
She got Kramer. She got Jerry. Reunion special coming up.
First of all,
Disney Plus.
Put some respect on it. It's Larry David who went ahead and put that reunion together. So don't take it away from my boy. Right? He's blind as a bat. He's bald as a fucking egg. But no, so she's out there, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's out there and she's collecting baddies, for lack of a better term. The naughty. Oh, you're naughty. I saw what you did. You're naughty. So she's out there. She's collecting U.S. Agent. A lot of people suspect Baron Nemo is next. The laundry list is there, and it is indeed long. And anyone who has read the comics will know she is putting together the Thunderbolts. So the Charlie put up ready. So the Thunderbolts, premature as always. So the Thunderbolts are in essence Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad. They are a team of bad guys.
It's the first time Marvel's followed DC and dick as far as film goes.
As far as film, absolutely. But we went through that long list. The character creation is actually it's actually showing DC as the more of the invaders. I'm pretty sure they even used the term House of Ideas at some point. But she's out there and she's putting together the Thunderbolts. So I mean, Charlie, were you ever kind of like caught up in that? I love the idea, and certainly comic book villains turning good. Fucking Cliff Barton, he was a bad guy. Scarlet Witch, and we literally watched it play out
Last
on screen. But no, I'm saying like she started as a bad guy, she finished as a bad guy too, full
Yes, she
circle.
did.
Charlie,
Wink.
that's a character arc.
That's how the robot felt about it.
But Cliff Barton, it was only alluded to that he maybe, even though he broke bad a little bit as Ronin. But that all being
You
said,
keep calling him Cliff. It's Clint.
well, you know him as well as I do. You call him Cliff.
Fair enough. That's his favorite candy bar.
Like I call Jack Daniels John Daniels because, like, we're tight like that.
Fair enough.
But Charlie actually me right to my face. That is rude. Ugh, don't
You
like how
just-
that feels.
You so perfectly you were like Cliff. Cliff.
Now calling Cliff to the front of the store. Cliff, your car is being towed.
I have to be honest. I got nervous. I was wrong. I was like, "Damn it, Cup! Why do you just say Hawkeye? I need his fucking.
Damn you!
I need
Cup,
his
you
legal
failed
name."
me again. But that all being said, fucking Cliff. Anyways, he should be. He looks like a Cliff. 4 foot nothing.
It's the
Shooting
Rocketeer.
bows and stuff. Getting undone by like a girl half your age. I'm gonna call him Cliff from now on permanently. Anyways,
That's what you get, Cliff.
it's not new. It's certainly not new. And I'm not even talking about like the anti-hero route, because that's, even at this stage in the game, more clearly established. But so like, were you a Thunderbolts lover as it was happening, or did you immediately say, "Hey, that's the Suicide Squad, you can't do that"?
When the Thunderbolts showed up, and they all had like new fancy names, and no one knew but us, the audience, I was like, "Are you jacking the entirety of my dick?" Baron Zemo's a douchebag. I did not believe. How dare you? I did not believe in redemption stories for guys that made all my favorite heroes' lives hell
But
for
he
years.
danced. If all you have to do is dance in like a cute little manner and you get off the hook, can you imagine court proceedings in that version of the MCU?
John, here's the problem.
Just Doctor Doom is like, yeah, granted, I may have enslaved a couple of continents, but look at this.
Here's the thing.
You scamp. You're innocent. Get out of here.
Little kid Charlie held no hero in higher regard than the Man of Steel himself. It was black and white. It was
you're welcome.
good and evil. There was none of this horse shit new school like, I'm naughty but I mean well. Whereas, like you so astutely mentioned, all it takes is you doing one adorable thing, and I'm on your side. Oh, Harley Quinn, that bitch. She helped kill Jason Todd. Oh, she loves bacon, egg, and cheese too? Oh, that's my girl. So for me, the Thunderbolts, as much as I disliked them in the past, the idea of assembling some Thunderboltes has me excited as hell now.
We are in a new world right now, so I am literally being messaged on air about an episode that we are recording live, and I will now be responding to said young lady in both message and vocally. So when she comes back to watch this episode, it's going to be very surreal for her.
Yeah,
She's
it's like
think
Inception.
She is, yeah, exactly. She's like, is this real? She's going to have to spin a top to realize where she is. And so I'm going to read this to you right now as I type back my response.
Just take your time. Definitely don't fill the time with words.
I just wish that I had another
silent.
person on mic during the show.
Yeah, but I didn't fucking know that you were just going to look down.
Fill it, except for the fact that I told you
Fine,
I'm gonna write.
John, do
except
it.
it's already
Stop.
done. So
Do it.
zip it. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this.
I just
so
inceptioned you because this was filling the dead air.
Literally. Usually though, when you feel you don't speak directly to the person trying to do something else.
Yeah, bro.
I don't like to give notes. I don't like to give notes.
You love giving notes.
Yeah, but afterwards. Anyways, so friend to the show, Carolyn, she writes, I finally get caught up on Stranger Things and figured it was safe to listen in. And now you're discussing a show I didn't know existed. So now I'm watching Love, Death, and Robots instead. smiley face, and she sent me a picture of the actual thing happening.
You know
on
what's
screen.
great? Obviously, I now know that that's like her TV stand. It looked like you were just holding a picture of a butt. So I thought you were.
No, she's
you were
watching it
teasing.
on a butt. She's watching it on a butt.
Perfect.
But yeah, that's very funny. So next episode, we'll go ahead and we'll get her hot take.
We're just gonna have to
But,
give her our topics early so she can do homework.
I mean, that's what we
before.
used to do.
But yeah, no, Thunderbolts did jack and shit for me originally, and yet now in the
can I
context
ask,
of the MCU,
just real quick, can I ask, is it because of the lineup specifically?
No,
or
I
because
just
of
didn't.
the concept.
When I was younger, I just didn't care for the idea of redeemable people. I was like, nah, you're bad once, you're bad forever. Go fuck yourself.
Did you also feel that way about Suicide Squad?
1,000,000,000%.
All right. How did you feel as a youngster about Harley?
Harley was a bitch,
Because
and I wanted Robin to punch her in the head.
When she came out. I mean, her introduction was at the Batman the Animated Series. So
I think Harley just turned 35. She's about my age. Harley Quinn is like about
So
my.
you're saying,
she's a little younger.
I've got a chance. I get it.
Exactly
We're
right.
reading you loud and clear, man.
So Harley, to me, the Harley Renaissance was in my adulthood. I enjoyed her episodes, but I enjoyed Poison Ivy. Like the Poison Ivy episode with Harley Quinn in Batman the Animated Series was probably the first time where I was like, all right, villains aren't too bad. And then, of course,
as long as they're both very hot and kissing occasionally.
Yeah, 100. I thought I was very clear. And then
That's
my obsession,
pretty good policy on your part.
my obsession with Bizarro, then came in, and once you kind of love the broken clone, who's like accidentally doing bad, that's the equivalent. Bizarro is like a puppy, and then it's all, then let it all in.
Yeah. So you're walking to the bathroom in the middle of the night and you step in a Bizarro pile, like, God damn it, Bizarro! How many times I gotta take you out?
That he threw up a little curly poop, because everything he does is like backwards in a weird way.
Take a pee, but like he's shitting all over your fucking rug.
So what was cool about it though is like in the age of Image at its highest, when DC and Marvel had real competition, I was able to now enjoy the darker side of DC and Marvel. So that was really the first time I started digging the Suicide Squad. Honestly, the Thunderbolts, for the most part, I avoided up until like maybe a decade ago.
Yeah.
Maybe Red, when Thunderbolt Ross was a giant Red Hulk was the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of rad.
It's interesting that you raised that point because of the Thunderbolts, to me, in my opinion, the most difficult one to actually actualize in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to be Red Hulk, because we lost the actor that so brilliantly played Thunderbolt in the show or in the movies and what have you. But so when Red Hulk first shows up, I was all about it, right? I like when they do something galactically different, wrapped in like a similar package. It's like you like Twix bars are like like goldish colored. Like, oh, but here's a tan one, but it's peanut butter and jelly. Ooh, I'm like, oh, you got me, Twix, you got me. So Red Hulk looks like Hulk, but he red. But then you're thinking, oh, another goofy, strong guy jumping around like an idiot, speaking like a dum-dum. But he's like, no, he's more eloquent than like I am on my best day. He's got black fingernails like he just went to Hot Topic. And it's not that he gets stronger the angrier he gets hotter. So I'm like, ooh, Twix, you fool me. So right away, I subscribe to that. And super duper spoiler from like many years ago, you find out the real question. It was like, who shot JR? Was it Maggie? Like, who shot JR? And then people were trying to establish what relative of Banner, because everyone green seems to be related to him somehow. Who is it? Who's Red Hulk? Who's Red Hulk? And you find out that it's the cat that hates him worst. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. The cat that hates him worst turns out to be like right up his alley. which I thought was beautiful. And then that clearly didn't work out too well.
Then he grew out his mustache, called it a day.
That's how you got to do it sometimes, man. That's just how you got to do it.
I
But
guarantee
then
he was like, ha!
Oh, for sure, for sure. It was just like one Taco Bell run too many, and he was sitting on the little, very, very reinforced bowl and just pushed out those pores. But yeah, so then they collectively gathered up these super dudes, super baddies. Me and Harley Quinn. That's damn sure. And you, Ellis.
Ellis called out John for the Who Shot JR reference, saying only Harley Quinn is old enough to get that reference.
Damn straight. But yeah, that all being said, I've always enjoyed particularly this lineup. So again, the MCU has gone on long enough that we've had seemingly cast off villains who we can now say, okay, well, you didn't do particularly well when the spotlight shone on you against the A team, the A level team, not like not Face and Hannibal, and maybe Mr. T could throw down, just throws one of them in slow motion.
I just ain't going on no plane, fool.
How old is that reference? See, we're not the only one, but this is what I'm saying, and it's interesting. This particular imaged or imagined image that Charlie was able to
a little piece of fan art,
because that is fan art. To answer Stan's earlier question, it's not the official lineup. We know that we're getting a Thunderbolts movie. We know, or series, not sure. We know that we are getting certain characters because we have already seen Elaine. I forget her fancy pants Marvel name.
Oh my god, it's like 28 names.
It's like Duchess fucking Vandermeer. Like, it's very, very specific.
I'll look it up.
She's an American government agent. But yeah, that all being said, so U.S. agent she has collected. I'm pretty sure Taskmaster is accurate. I don't know about Homegirl that blah 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 through Ant-Man. She's very very good character to fight with in the Marvel collector character game. Taskmaster, Baron Nemo definitely, because again he danced, so he's adorable. But and as I said, I'm not sure if we're gonna even ever see Red Hulk until they recast the Thunderbolt Ross role.
Someone threw out, it was Stan who threw out, what about potentially Abomination filling that role until a Red Hulk is available?
I mean, here's the thing. Abomination is almost entirely been redeemed anyway. Wong has been has made a pet out of him. Like Wong and Abomination, they'll watch Netflix shows like Charlie.
They host
like
the
Charlie
podcast.
and Jameson, and they
host
point
the
at the
podcast
screen
together.
Yeah,
it's called
for
Sorcerer
sure.
Supreme Wong and Friend.
Abomination. Did you get into the garbage again?
Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
Sure, of course. Absolutely.
She sounds like she plays hockey.
Do you know what her business card must look like? Like, you have to flip it over so it's like continued on the back.
Like De Fontaine. Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely Dancing Nemo, and that's gonna be their answer.
Dancing Nemo is what I shall be calling him from now on.
Nemo. Dancing Nemo and
poor Zemo
and
only
Cliff
got one
Barton.
flipper.
Dude, I'm basically making
our bootleg team.
Our own bootleg. I got very, very much into Chip and Dale. I'm like, that's not a bad idea, Peter Pan.
Like,
even
damn,
though they
bro,
maligned your memory.
The Revengeancer movie is gonna be sick.
It's true, but my whole point was this, and again, this fan art referenced it. They must have, especially in this era, like the dawning of the Seven. Nope, that's something different. The dawning of the Netflix heroes coming to the MCU proper. Obviously, Charlie polishing the stair banister with Daredevil. Jessica Jones for shizzle. Now we're even he's just a ninja now, totally black. Hearing grumblings. What happened?
I was looking for another Daredevil.
I thought I lost you. But yeah, like even Iron Fist, they're talking about redeeming. Like if they could fix Anakin, We can even like no, you couldn't fix Anakin. He looks old as fuck, and his dialogue still sucks. But that's a different episode. Um, but yeah, Luke Cage obviously.
I
So
really fucking hate Sand, John.
they're talking about kind of incorporating all these newer, friendlier, Disneyfied Avengers world, and you're gonna have to file down the edges for a lot of those characters that are coming over from Netflix. The one character from Netflix that you cannot file down, you literally will just chip away, and nothing's gonna fly off, is Punisher. You cannot Disneyfy Punisher. What you can do though is insert him into a situation like the Thunderbolts. Right? He's a guy that, unlike baby Charlie, he can see the bigger picture. He's not going to say, well, you were once a bad guy. I saw you on the back. Because he's been on the back page, or the front page. He doesn't play sports. He's been on the front page and wanted and this, that, and the other thing. Misunderstood, misaligned. So Punisher would be the perfect linchpin for a Thunderbolts team. And honestly, if I'm sitting down and I'm writing it, I'm not, though I should be. If I'm sitting down writing it, she puts this group together, and shockingly, they're not able to function as a unit because they're very individual people, and they clearly go their own way. So she needs a unifying force, and that would be Frank Castle. That's how I would do it. It would be like a third arc situation.
Yeah.
He shows up, people stand up out of their seats. That would be a dope ass way to see it. So I'm just gonna throw it to you, Charlie, with whatever time is left in the segment. Like, what do you think about that conceptually?
Full
what would
Bonner.
you do differently?
No, I really love it. The other big rumor is that the new Thunderbolts are going to be are going to incorporate the new Black Widow. So Yelena, as part of the Thunderbolts,
yeah.
just gets me fucking hard. So just to run them off in order. Right now, the rumored lineup is Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, funding and running the organization, our boy Baron Zemo as initial team leader, Black Widow Yelena Belova, Ghosts from Ant-Man, like John said, Taskmaster from Black Widow, and there are rumors that accompanying U.S. agent will still be Abomination, although Abomination's a sort of character, like John said, his arc's over. Maybe that's the casualty we have just to kind of affect, if no one else, Wong, and surprise the fucking audience. But you add Frank Castle to that mix. That is a brilliant 3/4 to the series. They need a proper leader, someone who's just so task obsessed. Sign me the fuck up. I'm also really excited about a badass team like this having a bunch of characters who maybe need a second bite at the MCU apple to really.
Oh, they definitely do. They definitely do. Only because like their screen time even. That's one thing that Marvel does when they're kind of like setting up their, the exposition is done so thoroughly that you really don't get to see as much of the baddies in action as you'd really want to. I mean, they're almost like they're like Bruce the shark from Jaws in that sense, where like you don't even really see them, but like you're afraid of them because you know they're coming. But let me ask you this, Charlie. So,
hit me.
That whatever article that you're referencing, they specifically talk about Thunderbolt Ross, and obviously the namesake is there. I thought the way that they could make it work best in this established continuity is because William Hurt has passed away sadly.
They're named after him.
They used the name as like a memorial situation because he didn't particularly trust the Avengers. Not a big fan of like the do-gooder mentality, especially when it's kind of draped with the excuse of I'm doing the wrong thing for the right reason. He wants control. So, William Hurt passed away this past March, I think, give or take.
Well, the big unknown is whether or not he filmed his scenes in She-Hulk. he was a confirmed character in the She-Hulk series, which we know got a lot of shuffling. They did not outright say that it's because we lost William Hurt. May he
I
rest
wonder
in
if he
power.
pops up in the She-Hulk IMDb page.
I can check. I'll check right now.
Ellis,
But what's
Ellis, I wish they could get Robert Redford back, but that might be too much of a get. You know what I could see them doing, Charlie?
Tell me now.
Now that we're kind of talking through it, I can see them bringing back Betsy Ross and making her Red She-Hulk.
Ooh.
And doing like a real 1-for-1 there.
Can we animate eyebrows that big?
We can do
That's
anything.
the question. Fair enough. He's not listed on their main IMDb page. So, again, I'm just talking about that article was acknowledged.
Yeah, where did you see that article? Because we like to reference.
Screen Rant. I'll tell you the author.
Screen Rant?
Yeah. It was a Screen Rant article from Cooper Hood. Wrote it, and it was just updated yesterday.
See, thank you, Cooper, for contributing to this little show. We show the love.
So again, there's a few different interesting outs. You could do that thing where they're named after him if they want to acknowledge the character's passing.
Sure.
You could do that shit where like
maybe he acquired the funding for them.
Yeah. Oh, we have the third one. Where's Lacey Chabert? Ellis mentioned Lacey Chabert. Does this count as 3? It was a little Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The talented, the lovely, the beautiful Lacey Chabert.
I mean, you would have to like, how big does when you get hulked up? What do you get, like 4 times your normal size? Lacey Chabert would have to go like 10 times her normal size.
Lacey
Even
Chabert,
just be like a normal size human.
Lacey Chabert Hulk sized is 5'6", 128.
Maybe if you said Hulkling, then I was like, oh, Red Hulkling. I can kind of see this is we're in deep dive territory. So I apologize to any casual listeners out there. But long story short, I'm very much looking forward to Marvel's Suicide Squad, and honestly, the variations of the title Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad. Later, a couple of years, they come out with the Le Suicide Squad, which is going to be French bad guys from the DC universe. But
everyone speaks French but Harley. She just thinks she speaks French.
You're just holding a croissant, Harley. Yeah. But it's adorable, so we'll let you get away with it. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. I buy all the way into the... It's not even so much redemption stories. They're black hats. They're black hats doing something to benefit one side or the other, but the motivation is irrelevant. You want to know what it is that they're doing, not necessarily why they're doing it, whether they're, whether it's in their long-term best interest in terms of freedom or financial gain, doesn't really make a difference. I mean,
I love the idea, though.
Goldilocks made a fortune out of it, made multiple franchises out of it. Doing it in cars, so why can't they do it with superheroes?
I love the idea of... So the Suicide Squad are working off, the idea, the 10-cent idea for Suicide Squad is that they're working down their time. Someone like Harley Quinn has 500 life sentences, so she needs to knock 30 years off 1 billion missions to get out. I love the idea if the Thunderbolts... are all seemingly this lineup could potentially be just a bunch of people truly trying to redeem themselves, which is an interesting take. I would love to see Ghost return, and I think so. I kind of love the idea of people.
It depends on the individual. So like, I was ready to move on, but so if you look at Ghost, you can see Ghost definitely going that route, but fucking Zemo.
Well, no, Zemo's a cunt.
I don't think he gives 2 bits of a fuck.
Zemo gonna Zemo, but he likes leadership roles. Zemo winds up being the villain. Like, there's no doubt.
Taskmaster, I don't think could order her own lunch in a drive-thru right now. Like, she kind of just does what the fuck she's told. U.S. Agent is
a douche.
He's
but
like,
he's a douche.
He's like Homelander without the ability to fly. So I don't
like
know
useless
necessarily.
Homelander. I think there's an interesting different story you could tell.
Well, I don't think that it's gonna be a. It's not the point. It's anyways. Anyway, we're yeah. I'm looking forward to it. That was the point I was trying to make. How they're going about doing it. Obviously, Elaine is pulling the reins, so it's gonna be her motivation. That really matters. But Charlie, why don't you tell the good people how we go about the business of paying some bills?
Well, unlike other podcasts who just take on any willy-nilly sponsor that's willing to throw them a couple shekels, we have goddamn integrity. And no one wants to just give us free money from products we hate. So instead, we fill our lives with products we love. And one of my absolute favorite bands of all time in all the multiverse is currently touring yet again, and that, of course, is Bad Mary. You can follow them across all their social media at Bad Mary Band. You can support them financially over on patreon.com/Bad Mary. My favorite thing about the band, frankly, is just how easy it is to get your grubby little mitts on their music. If you have any music streaming site, Spotify, iTunes, any of that good stuff, Apple Music rather, all you have to do is type in Bad Mary and bam, you got yourself the entire discography. You got all their singles. You even have their brand new single that right now has a hot music video. That's, of course, The Floor is Lava, available now. And also they're touring, so go buy a shirt, buy a ticket to a show, listen to some of their tunage. All of it can be found at badmary.com or anywhere on social media under Bad Mary Band.
Hell yeah, we're gonna be seeing them very, very shortly, indoors, outdoors. But I have one question for this kid right here, wearing that Magnum PI goodness. Charlie, where we dropping? And the answer is with Sergeant Finesse. Gaming on both Twitch and Facebook. Multiple streams every day. Outstanding video game content. Contests, supporter games, co-streams, giveaways. He's actually doing different games. So obviously he plays a ton of Warzone, but he's playing this new game that everyone's talking about, Diablo Immortal. And other games, there's new stuff coming. There's expansions coming. There's new seasons. There's a lot of new. So definitely go check him out today. But if you're looking for a pick-me-up, follow the White Rabbit over to sneakenergy.com. It is dripping all over the damn place, but it's still delicious. Gulp. Legitimately very, very good, because when the sergeant's on deck, you salute. So Charlie Boy McGillicuddy.
Yes?
There is a lot going on. Now, finally, you're caught up on Love, Death, Robots.
Yes.
Finally. You know what's good to know about the baddies doing good, whether they like it or not, over in the Marvel universe.
That's right.
I gotta ask you, any other news that you got picking you up that's got your at full fucking attention?
Well, here's the fact. I know we just mentioned our sponsor, but I'm always dropping all the respect. I'm always watching the videos for Sarge Finesse, but there is another sergeant that came into the news this week, and he's not worried about Call of Duty. He's not worried about Diablo. He's not even worried about X-Men running around. He probably still enjoys some Sneak Energy because he's a pimp like that. But I'm talking about a man with a jawline so nice. Judge Dredd and Ashley Williams need to watch out because Sergeant Rock, DC Comics' own, he is getting the exact sort of series that gets me my nips just rock hard.
Wolf.
Sergeant Rock versus the undead. But John,
Yes.
that's obviously a thing I'm going to buy, I'm going to read, and unless it's somehow total nonsense, I'm going to love. But what if I told you, like a mother trucking, never-ending gobstopper, there's even more reason to be excited. The man behind the words, The man making the decisions, the man writing the comic is none other than Evil Dead himself. Bruce fucking Campbell is writing a zombie book for DC Comics. They might as well call it Deceased Comics. Am I right?
Hail to the king, baby. Hail to the king.
When
I saw that news drop, I really had to I did a double take, because never mind the fact that I didn't know Bruce Campbell as a writer of any kind. Certainly didn't think of him as a writer in the comic book vein. But also, as well as, I cannot, and I'm really thinking, and I was really into those books on the come up. I can't remember the last time that SgtRock and Easy Company were a point of conversation. I mean, maybe like hardcover collections coming out, this and the other thing. SgtRock is a dope ass fucking character, especially for an imprint like DC. So I want to ask you, Charlie. Obviously, that news, Bruce Campbell's involvement immediately grabbed you by the short and curlies. But did SgtRock as a character hold any sway for you and your attention?
Do you remember, and this is a little bit of a sidestep to get to where I'm going, but trust me, do you remember when G.I. Joe rebranded as Extreme G.I. Joe in the 90s? They had awful figures that were 6.5 inches tall, that were all grotesque and muscular.
Charlie, you're referring to the era where there was an extreme version of the Looney Tunes.
Fair enough.
There was a legitimate extreme Bugs Bunny, jet black stealth fur. It was just Tasmanian Devil looked like he just came from murdering 7 families, spinning in a blood circle. So yeah, there was extreme versions of everyone. I do remember the extreme goofy, zero articulation extreme G.I. Joe figures. Yes, I do.
So when extreme G.I. Joes hit the market, it was accompanied by a terrible cartoon. DC Comics decided there's now a hole in the toy aisle for a G.I. Joe type figure. And that's how I was introduced to SgtRock and Easy Company. The toys didn't sell well, but that was great for me because at KB Toys, I picked up all 5 figures. Sure. Each figure had a comic book, and suddenly my comic book collection grew 5 more issues.
In the biz, those are referred to as army builders because you're I don't know who these people are. I don't particularly give a shit, but I can buy a bunch of them, and all of a sudden I have a small little attack force delta.
Exactly.
And they'll always be the first one to die in action when you're playing your games. Lose a couple in the backyard, you don't really give a fuck because they were $2 each.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor
so for
SgtRock.
me, SgtRock, what was awesome about him, for me, the one of my absolute favorite aspects was that he is just such an alpha. He's just such in the vein of a Judge Dredd.
He's a World War II cat. So he was one of these kids a tobacco chewing, doesn't take any guff, wears his BDUs open to the navel. SgtRock did not give 2 shits. He didn't give the shit that he was supposed to take, and he didn't give the shit that you were requesting permission to crawl off into the bathroom and take, even if you were shot to bits. He's no, you hold that in, soldier. SgtRock was the original alpha male.
So you know that scene in Predator when I forget who says it, but one of the characters
there were
goes
17 predators.
Someone goes in the original. Someone goes, "Hey, John, you're bleeding." The guy just turns and he goes, "I ain't got time to bleed." That's SgtRock. If you ask Sarge to take a dump, he's you got time to shit? You got time to kill the enemy. There is something just so, SgtRock to me is who we all claimed our dad was in elementary school.
Yeah.
It was
exactly.
My dad eats gravel for fucking fun. There is something
and he doesn't share.
Yeah, exactly. There is something so badass about Sergeant Rock. The only thing you would dare take away from Sergeant Rock is that like he is a war comic character.
Oh yeah.
And there's just something not sexy. Like it's bad enough that the history books are filled with bullshit. I don't need my entertainment like also being like, well, this group is inferior to America. But the solution, John, as we learned from Top Gun 2, was like, just don't name what country these zombies are from. And then I got no goddamn
fine.
problem.
It's totally
They're
fine.
in slightly
Just
grayer
really-
BDUs.
Really quickly, before Stan's comic gets buried, the Howling Commandos were also under the command of Sergeant Rock. He had multiple groups that he was responsible for. Easy Company was one. The Howling Commandos were another.
Howling Commandos
But,
were the one from the toy line.
The other thing though that really stuck out about the Sergeant Rock comic, it is obviously war's no good. Not preferable in an ideal situation.
Yeah.
But the illustrations are textbook Joe Kubert.
Yes.
Textbook. Like you would read. Sometimes you could pick up a Sergeant Rock reprint, just because you wanted to learn to draw in that style. Like that was the first time in those comics that. Like the concept of like the multiple illustration lines, like the multiple shading lines, like ink lines, not like faded color, like we'll see a lot of times, say like Image in the mid '90s. They're like, we'll just fade one shade of purple all the way down to pink and call it a day, and everything kind of looked like in that glossy, very artificial way of doing it. Friggin' Joe Kubert did it with his pen. It was shocking to see that type of an art style done so beautifully, especially considering what shitty subject matter is. Not the writing. The writing was fucking A plus. But like they were illustrating like war. They were war comics, so they were relatively adult.
Yeah, and there's something. So for me, again, one of my favorite things about comics is they can feed you a little bit of medicine. They could tell you stories a different way. So if there was a way to make Sergeant Rock even more glorious, you fucking have him fight zombies, bro. Like that, I'm so excited for this miniseries.
So if you think about it, the way that
Where
you can
the Walking Dead,
justify,
I get it.
the way that you can justify, like, quote unquote, men of action really doing their thing is to completely dehumanize their villains. And the only really three options technically, robots, which is the reason why you
So
saw
I would never fight a robot.
A lot of the Golden Age comics were robots, because like, well, fucking they're robots, they're droids. I mean, poor Star Wars, they in essence they missed a complete racial profiling story arc. The second C-3PO and R2-D2 didn't get served in Tatooine. They blew it. But also there are zombies. You can kill zombies for days. No one is gonna write a letter.
They
No one's
high-five
gonna
you
be
for it.
picketing outside your offices. It is totally fine. Knock yourself out. And mosquitoes. That's the third group. Like Sergeant Rock versus mosquitoes from Planet 12, third from the sun. You could do that all day long. So Sergeant Rock straight up murderifying zombies. You could do. It doesn't have to be a limited series. You could do that all day, every day.
Yeah, here's the thing, though, John. I haven't thought about Sergeant Rock in 20 years.
Yeah.
Then someone said, Sergeant Rock versus zombies, and I threw my wallet towards that person. And then someone said, Bruce Campbell is writing it. And I ran up to that person, and I shapooped them in the head. Because, sir, DC right now, despite its seeming quasi-best efforts, they are fucking doing a bad job of being good at making movies. And I think, John, that maybe here is the solution.
No.
Bruce Campbell writing and then starring in SgtRock versus the Undead is going to give me $100 million to make it. I will give you back $200 million. There is no way that movie doesn't make money and it's not burdened by the weight of like what color is Aquaman's hair. Because no one's thought about SgtRock in 20 fucking years. John, is this something that, like me, you would greenlight word unseen? If this fucking script is in English, I'll buy it for a trilogy. I just, like, come on. He's still got the chin. He's still holding together by duct tape. He looked good as fuck in Ash versus Evil Dead.
The only issue that I could possibly see, I mean, you're talking about a lot of hypothetical money that doesn't exist, and it's certainly not even mine, but I still feel the need to be responsible with it. At this point, if Campbell was going to portray Sergeant Rock, it would have to be one of those, like, gotta take Sergeant out of retirement. He's sitting in the bar like, I haven't picked up a gun in 20 years, but he's got one secretly tucked into the back. Now, if you came to me and said, Sam Raimi directing,
I'm also, yes, please.
That for me would be an instant green light.
Here is the only thing I'm going to change.
I would give Bruce Campbell, like, I'd let him be like an elevator attendant, like in Spider-Man or something along those lines. But, the fact that he's writing it, I don't think necessarily he's going to be writing it to his particular strength. Bubba Hotep 2? Absolutely. Fucking all day.
I'm just saying, could you imagine, all I need to do is add one page. The opening scene is retired-ass Sergeant Rock eating some fucking jelly in an old folks' home. How dare you, Jim? No one saw Sergeant Rock since the Nixon administration. It's accurate, but it's hurtful.
You're actually talking right now. You're describing the beginning of Bubba Hotep.
Yes, this is also a backdoor
maybe
sequel.
Elvis just sitting fucking there's a
he
train
just gets
accident.
bonked on the head. Remember, he's a war vet.
Sergeant Rock versus the mummies. Like, we can do a whole big fucking thing.
We're in. I think this is a good. I just think this is one of those. In all sincerity, I think these are the IPs that you could build. Like, do you remember that chunk of the 2000s where a bunch of movies came out and they were like based on world best-selling graphic novel Flim Flam and the Jim Jams, and you're like, I love comics and I've never fucking heard like The Losers I read, and it was just me. It was like me in the studio that greenlit the fucking Losers.
I mean, The Losers is properly used to catch any professed comic book fan. You're like, oh, what are the honestly, I've lost count now too. But like, what are the 4 comic book characters that Chris Evans has played? And you're like, oh, hey, wait, how many? Oh no. But right away I was thinking of like a good example of that is Wanted.
Yes.
So like, fucking Wanted, the comic book was drawn portraying Hollywood actors, not by name, but like you looked at the illustrators, like
you're like, that's Eminem.
I know exactly who it is that I'm looking at right now.
He's the real Slim Shady. I don't think he's a gun supervillain.
But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There was a slew of comic book movies that no one had any idea were based on comics.
I think that's the next renaissance. I think
For DC?
right now DC needs to take a fucking breather, right? Because now Time Warner and Discovery Time Warner, the most clever name ever. Thanks for proving your hacks out the gate.
Could they move their offices like directly to the equator and just be called Time Warmer? That would be just
back in.
Swell.
I'm back in. The logo's just like a little clock on the grill.
It's like it's dripping because it's so hot.
I think properties like this, low stake properties that you can throw in the trailer, be like, fucking comic books 98 years fucking old, and Sergeant Rock is back, baby. You thought Top Gun was, we just proved that the people want that shot of adrenaline right to their nards. Men and women alike, lady nards, welcome. I think now's the fucking time. The iron's warm. Let's get some shit where I don't have to be like, when they use the third Robin, not the, I don't like the Batgirl's costume.
And you know that you would be.
I'm that guy. I know I'm a piece of shit. Help me be less of a piece of shit and give me $100 million for a Sergeant Rock fighting zombies movie.
You know what? I could conceivably see something like that happening, especially
Steven Spielberg presents on HBO Max.
With the wheels coming off of the extended universe the way that it is, and there's just like no
Flash kidnapped someone allegedly this week. I'm like,
and he's like ducking. He's like ducking court papers and like making a mockery. You realize, little buddy, you can't actually run that fast. Like they can probably catch you on foot. You
I'm
don't
the
really
fastest
have those powers,
person
Ezra.
alive. Damn it,
He's
Ezra.
the fastest to like fuck up a goddamn franchise. That much I'll give him. But yeah, to answer your question from like 12 minutes ago, yes, I could conceivably see something like that. But you had referenced in the pre-stuff,
Yes.
Jonah Hex was like very, very problematic. The problem is when they take these steps away from known comic book properties. Cowboys versus Aliens is another one that immediately comes to mind because I really enjoyed the comic, and it had money behind it, and there were names. There was a naked what's her face in it. I'm like, this has got all the earmarks of a success, and it just wasn't. Jonah Hex even far more so. That failed miserably, and I couldn't believe that they gave Homeboy one more comic book franchise, much less fucking two, comic book character to portray, and successfully so. So
maybe the problem was he's ugly as shit.
Jonah Hex had all kinds of problems, but I think you're absolutely right. I think a project like this could, even more than taking Sergeant Rock specifically out of Dust Balls, which obviously it would do, I think that it would help put the shine back on the fucking big D and the C. Because right now, I hate to say it out loud because we're both such big fans of the Big Blue Boy Scout. They're kind of looked at as like a joke. They're like a punchline. And even when they have big successes, they don't have the marquee value that Marvel does, right? You're not watching DC Plus. You're not even watching shit on Disney Plus, which everyone knows immediately they make the correlation to Marvel. It's almost as if Marvel owns DC rather than the other way around. It's like Marvel owns DC, or rather Marvel owns Disney and Star Wars. Like, no. They are owned. Whereas, like, who owns fucking DC? It's again, the name value, the marquee, the sticker price, like, attention, they don't really have any of that going on, and projects like this, I think, is probably how they should get it there. You can't, if you're waiting for the Holy Trinity to come save you, they're not gonna do it. They're just not gonna do it.
It's ironic too, because they have the truth is DC has a very, very unique, they're in a unique position because, like you said, they don't really have that. Their value is in being a punchline, like you said, but they have a delivery, they have a Disney Plus type device in HBO Max to drop 3 or 4 less expensive, less obvious comic book movies. And that's how you build up a want. Be like, well, now we figured out what works for us. Now we figured out what money number we should hit. And then you could bust back out the Trinity.
But what has worked for them?
Just Batman.
Like well, Joker. And we're talking about Like we're talking about
Joker 2, the musical.
Joker 2 the musical with Lady Gaga. Um, so then you have Batman, which has no specific connection to anything else that's going on. They're talking about that having it's a sequel. You have the stuff happening in Peacemaker where I'm totally juiced up because I'm like, yeah, great, let's get away from the nonsense Snyderverse. And they're like, oh, but we're going to import some of them. So is it connected or is it not? It's such a confused issue that they have going on over there. Something like Sergeant Rock needs to be totally in a bubble. They need to make it
clear bubble
all by itself. Huh?
It also needs to be clear that it's in its own universe. Don't leave that thing where like maybe Sergeant Rock inspires Batman.
But we do that though. So if you go and you watch a movie and it's made by whomever, Universal, and then you go watch it and it's about werewolves, and then you go watch another Universal movie and it's a fucking Matthew McConaughey is a lawyer, a small town lawyer, you're like, oh, I bet those werewolves are gonna show up. Why would you think that? Just because the same company made, they're totally different things. So if DC labeled them, if they branded themselves just more of a production company as opposed to like everything we do is interconnected, like come on. Honestly, sometimes first to market means you own the market. So Marvel has very much established. They've painted themselves into corners multiple times, and where Flash was supposed to be the one to run DC out of all that trouble and say, oh, you like this, you like that, you like this, we'll cobble all those not necessarily matching parts. They're fucking that shit up also. So you know what, let Marvel do what they're doing. Let DC focus on standalone projects that don't require everything else in order to be successful, and they can find a lot of success because like Sergeant Rock, they have gems sitting up on the fucking shelf collecting dust, and they're not just only doing themselves a disservice, they're doing us a disservice. I love the concept of Bruce fucking Boomstick Campbell having the reins to a character like Sergeant Rock, because otherwise we wouldn't get any Sergeant Rock. So give me the Bruce version just so I have something at least.
Give me the Bruce version or give me Death John. Believe it or not, you beautiful, beautiful son of a gun. That's time for this week. But my beautiful friends, thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you joined us in just the audio format, I hope you heard every sip, every snort, and every giggle because we're happy to have you.
Episode art. At least you get something.
Exactly right. First to market with that episode art. If you joined us in video format on Twitch, on YouTube, or on Facebook, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you can, do us a favor. Go over to iTunes, go to the little podcast section, give us a 5-star review. We randomly pick reviews all the time and send them a gift package. So far, none have earned the gift package, and the gift package was $100, so I just gave it to myself. Guys, I absolutely love you, but the fact is there is only one way that we end each and every episode of US Comics. So I'm going to kick it over to my beautiful big brother to tell us how we do the things we do.
It is so simple, especially now because they, as Charlie had mentioned before, they are touring, they are performing, and they're doing it all for your benefit. So you got to do something too. You got to turn the power on. You gotta turn the volume up, and you gotta tune Bad Mary and open up the window wide and scream out into the night sky, save me, Space Girl. We out.
Get your body, girl, get your big tail down, get your covered in clouds.